talk us through just everything and anything that you want to talk us through as far as the drive up there and what happened that day.
Yeah, so my brother called me and he said, you want to go see Trump up in D.C.? And I said, well, when is it? He said, dude, it's tomorrow. And you know, I could free my own schedule, so I said, okay. And I had missed him. I think he came to Dalton. And I lived in Chattanooga at the time. Dalton's my hometown, so I was like, I have to. But it was also, I was the kid that didn't get to go to the DC trips, you know, because it was too expensive. So I was like, there's no way I'm passing up on this. So we drove, I think it was 9 hours all night long. We get there and it's frigid cold. It's January up there, so it's even worse. It's sleeting, it's raining lightly, I don't remember, but lines to the bathrooms, there's just tons of people there. So we got there early, so we toured the city. We go to, I believe, the Washington Monument. We take tons of pictures, videos of everything, and Trump starts speaking. And to me, it was obvious what was going on. Sorry.
You're good.
It was obvious what was going on in the world, in politics and things like that, and he just really wasn't, I guess he wasn't really representing, I guess, the struggle that people were like going through. And so I was upset. I didn't vote for Trump in, what was that, 2020? I didn't vote for him. But I was upset that he didn't kind of call it like it was. And so told my brother, I'm ready to go. Like, let's just, dude, we got 9 hours. I froze to death all day. I'm starving to death. I haven't slept in 24 hours. Like, I'm ready to go. So we start heading down, again, Pennsylvania Avenue, I think. And there was a split in the road. And the Capitol was on one side. The parking garage where we came in at was on the left side. And we got to just about where, like, we had to take a left. And we were walking through some grass. And an explosion happens. And I'm thinking, so it was really just an explosion. Like, there was no chaos or anything like that. It was just a big boom. And it was like, what in the world was that? And I looked at my brother and I said, we need to leave. Like, this is not good. So we take another 10 steps and another explosion goes off. And that explosion was different. Like, it was louder, it was bigger, people are screaming. So he looks at me, I look at him, and it's, you know, it was just, we should at least go see what's going on, like see if somebody's hurt, like people are screaming like they're hurt, let's go check on them, do whatever we can do, and then we need to leave. So we walk up, we got up to where there was scaffolding. I remember the scaffolding, and there was a bunch of people, and there was like a ledge, and I wanted to see everything. And I was standing there, and there was a guy on top of this, like the steps went up, and there's like a ledge that comes over that, or beside that, and he was up there, and he was just screaming, everybody get up here, like we need to rush in, like all these things. And so I got up there, and I looked around, and I was just kind of standing there, and it's mass chaos. So you're either the guy that's like screaming and causing the mass chaos, or you're kind of just dumbfounded on what you're seeing. And I was the dumbfounded guy. I was just kind of like, this is hectic. And so get hit in the back with something. They said they were shooting people with rubber bullets. I don't know. I tried to keep my face, like I didn't want to look at them. I could see them up at the top of the stairs. And they were firing down, and I'm going to imagine it was like rubber bullets or mace balls or something like that. But it hurt. I mean, it wasn't lethal or anything. So I was like, okay, this is not smart. So I got down, and I remember standing back in that same place, and I got separated from my brother. And I was standing there, and this little old lady was beside me. And I remember I said something to her, and I looked over, and right beside the scaffolding, there was a line of cops. And the cop just, the people are loud, like they're loud, but they're not, nobody's hitting anybody or pushing anybody or hitting anybody with anything. It wasn't really, they were just being loud. And the cop just hauls off and just like pushes this dude off his feet. And that's when like all hell broke loose. And it was like they couldn't contain it. Like there was 50 police officers out there. They start shooting tear gas in. They send the riot, I guess riot police out. Biggest people I've ever seen in my life. Big riot shields and all that. Crowd swallows them up, moves them off the property, and then like everybody from that point's like cheering and kind of like they won the battle or something. And about that time they shot a tear gas canister and it landed. I've actually got a video on my phone. It landed right in front of me, and so I took. That's why I had a shirt on my face in the videos, because of the tear gas. It wasn't to hide my identity. You're not gonna hide your identity from these people. So it was. So I took the shirt out. I put it on my face. I poured water over it, and I looked to my right, and that little old lady was just dying. She was just like, she was about to. She was like almost. She was just delirious, and she couldn't breathe. She was choking. Her eyes were pouring. Snot was pouring out of her nose. Like it was terrifying. So I took her scarf off her neck. I washed her face off. I wrapped it around her face, and then there just happened to be some guys that had like full tack gear on, and so I told them, y'all need to get this lady out of here. So and I never seen her again. I wish I could find her, but they moved her out. And I'm not very clear on the amount of time that all I know is the amount of time that I was in the building, because that was a big deal. But I don't know how long it lasted outside of the building. I remember all hell broke loose, and that happened with the lady, and then it seemed like the police just disappeared. They were just gone, and it was such a heavy police presence, and then they were just gone, and it seemed like they were gone forever. And so I remember maybe that same guy that was on the top of that thing saying, get up here, represent your country, all these things. Maybe that same guy was the guy that was at the top, and he was waving everybody up, and he was like, y'all come up here, show your power, all these things. And so I remember walking up the steps in single file line. Nobody was running, and I'm pretty sure there was like an edge to these steps, and there was like a big, and I remember, so it goes up, and then there's a huge retainer wall there. Nobody's getting pushed off of them. Nobody's falling. They're just kind of trotting up the line. So I followed up, got up there. There was a door to the left, and there was cops there. There was cops in front of the door. There was a scissor lift, like right here, and I think they were about to raise just the biggest American flag you've ever seen in your whole life. And so those cops were there. At that point, people are throwing stuff. I think the cops kind of retreated in, and again, I don't know how long I was there in that moment, but it seemed just like so long that there was just no police. And so guy apparently gets the bright idea to knock the window out. They weren't guarding the inside either, right? So he knocks the window out, from what I remember, unlocks the door. People start piling in, and I remember sitting there, and I knew I would go to jail. I just didn't want to go to jail in D.C. Like, if I'm going to go to jail, I'm going to go to jail at home. And I don't know how that makes it better, but I thought, I sit there, and I told you, I have ADD, so I zone out. And I zoned out, and I remember looking up at the, whatever part of the Capitol that was, and what is that called, a rotunda? The big dome, gold dome, and it was like everything went quiet, and it was just so pretty. It was like the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. And then I realized that they sat in their iron domes. They sat in their granite palaces, and they crapped down the throats of
You can take a minute. That's
Yeah,
completely
please.
fine. Take a minute. You're good.
I just had a lot of people go to jail. We all lived off food stamps. And they sit in those domes, man, and they make those decisions, and it butchers people like me. I wanted to change that for my kids. So I made my decision, and I knew I was going to go to jail.
I hate to interrupt you.
Sorry.
Be careful with your mic because
Sorry.
this is important
Yeah.
for people to hear. I don't want them to miss it.
I knew that I was going to go to jail, and I think my thought process was, there was trying times. It was trying times in America, and I'd been talking to my kids about, standing up for what you believe in, and I stood there, and everything went quiet, and I thought, how can I tell my kids to stand up for what they believe in, whether everybody considers it's bad or not? Like it doesn't. Sometimes you have to do the wrong thing for the right reasons, and I honestly believe, besides the people that did it for Instagram and TikTok, I honestly believe that a majority of those people there knew what they were doing was wrong, but I guess conservative people, whatever you want to call them, or us now, they knew what they were doing wrong, but they knew it was like something in history that people would remember. And maybe they didn't do it to be remembered individually, but I believe that it was the start of the common sense revolution. Like Trump coined that. And you have to understand, I'm not a Trump thumper. I'm not a MAGA thumper. I don't believe in large government. I just don't believe in large federal government. I believe that the Constitution has been tried, so, but I was sitting there in that moment, and I thought if I can't stand on what I tell my own children, then I'm not a man. So I remember walking in the building, and of course, I got out as soon as I could. It was terrifying. But I went in. I remember getting into the rotunda, and there was a line of police at the back side of it, and they were just scared to death. I remember that. They were just crying. I mean, I remember police officers crying, shaking, like uncontrollably. Just they truly thought that. I believe they truly thought they were going to die. And I remember walking up to them, and nobody was trying to push them or messing around. They were literally just standing in a line, and people were walking around them saying, hey. And I remember walking up to the guy on the end, and I stuck my hand out. And I have no idea why I did this, but I stuck my hand out, and he just kind of looked at me, and I said, well, that was wrong, and that's disrespectful, but I know you're scared. So I'll tell you what I'll do. And maybe I did it to antagonize or whatever it may have been, but I told him, I said, I'll stand in front of you, and I won't let nobody hurt you, man. Like, that's not, like, we'll fight them. It's okay. And I remember a guy being beside me, he said, you know what, that's actually a good idea. So I remember standing there, we probably only stood there for 2 or 3 minutes, and then they kind of started ushering. Like, it seemed like an usher, but that's how controllable it was. Like, it wasn't, I didn't see one single person breaking windows and man, there's so much stuff in there. There's stuff of value in there. And not one person was bashing walls in, pushing things over. They literally escorted us out of the building, the pack that I was in, escorted us out. Okay, kids, it's time for y'all to go. And so if that don't prove that it was more nonviolent than violent, then what does? But they escorted us out, and I remember in court they tried to bring up, oh, he jumped out a window like I'm Batman or something. But they escorted us out of the window. And so as soon as I got out, I left. I couldn't get out of that place fast enough. And I made the mistake of going live while I was there. And so I believe that's how they found me. I actually had people message me on Facebook and say, I reported you to the FBI and all of those things. So all of that was in my paperwork as well. But got home, and it was normal. Besides, all the publicity and being scared to death for the next 3 years, it was normal. So I think about a year and a half goes by, and of course I deleted everything off Facebook, but it doesn't matter. Lessons learned. And everything just kind of went back to normal. And me and the wife gets pregnant. We find out we're having a little girl, and that was cool because I have 3 girls now. And we were in our house in Chattanooga, actually off of Laurelton Drive, not far from like the mall and like pretty much a nice part of Chattanooga. And she came in the garage. I was in the garage doing something. She came in the garage. She said, "I think there's federal agents outside our house." And I thought, oh, like that's, so time to go to jail. And I remember looking out the window, and it was almost like they wanted to be seen. Like so I lived in a cul-de-sac. You couldn't drive past each other in the cul-de-sac. It was like a 1 lane. So the road is right in, my driveway was 15 foot long. Just like right in front of my neighbor's driveway, like across the street. And he was just sitting there with his window rolled down looking at my house. And I looked at him and I thought, well, if they're going to come in here and get me, they'll come in here and get me. So another year and a half goes by. And so once we seen that, it was like, that's when the paranoia kicks in and it's like, okay, when you see all these movies and you're like, God, are they like tapping my phone or bugging my house? It was terrifying. And so I actually own a cabin in Blue Ridge. So me and the wife decided to move back there. It's in the woods. You got to drive a mile just to get in my house. Like, it's not on the main road. Every single one of my neighbors are veterans. So they're going to call you. You know everybody. It's great. So life goes on. Business grows. Everything is going good. Had the baby. Baby's doing good. And let's see, had the baby in July, actually my mother's birthday, which I thought was cool. Had the baby in July, got arrested in January. So she was, roughly 5 months old, 6 months old? So go to take my daughters to school one morning, and I get a phone call, and I'm actually in the bathroom at the gas station. I always stop in the mornings to get them donuts and muffins and stuff, and I was using the bathroom, got the phone call, and the guys, and I don't remember the agent's name, but the agent said, "Mr. Hamilton, this is Agent so-and-so, where are you at right now?" And I said, "Who? Like what?" I thought it was a joke. I thought it was my buddy calling me because he knows about it. And I said, "Excuse me?" And he said, "This is Agent so-and-so. I'm here for the Capitol riots. Where are you at? Like, I need to know now. Like, wherever you're going, you need to come here." And so I called my wife. So I was walking out, and I made the decision. I thought, okay, I'm going to jail, and it is politics, and it is close to an election year, so it's like, if I go to jail, I'm probably not getting out. So I made the decision to take my kids with me. I could have took them to school and just forgot all about it, but I'm 15 minutes from the house, 20 minutes from the house. I'll get an extra 20 minutes with my kids. I get to explain myself and not just, hey, your dad's in jail. So I take that 15 minutes and I'm riding with them, and I call the wife, and the agent makes her put it on speakerphone, and I'm talking to him, and I'm saying, hey, I'm on my way back. All I ask, I'm coming back. I'm not going to go anywhere. I have nothing to hide from you, but just don't arrest me in front of my kids. That's all I ask. Like, whatever we got to do for that, please put your guns down. Every one of them have AR-15s. My wife's telling me they're pointing guns at her. Like, it's just a terrible mess. So he said, listen, we won't arrest you in front of your kids. Just come back. We're not going to throw you around, or we're not here for that. We're just simply here. He said, honestly, if you'll just come back now, I can probably get you out today. And I'm thinking, okay, do I trust them? Like, does it even matter? They're going to find me. There's nowhere I can go. So I start heading back, and I'm speeding, and I think this is funny. I'm speeding, and 515 is a terrible place to speed. There's troopers all down 515. So I get pulled over, and the cop walks up to the window, and he says, why are you going so fast? And I said, listen, you're not going to believe me, but I've got federal agents raiding my house. He's told me to get back as soon as possible. It's for the January 6th riots. And the guy looked at me and said, you're going to have to make up something better than that. I said, no, listen. And the guy said, sir, we'll message you on the radio, however that works. And so he goes back to his car, he comes and he says, I'm going to give you an escort back, but don't go anywhere. Like you stay right in front of me. He did stay behind me. He said, I'll be right behind you. So I'm taking my time at that point. And get back to the house. They did honor their word. So they grabbed my phone, number one, and we'll get into that. But they let me take my kids in and love you, kisses and all that stuff. And they pulled me around because I have a sunroom on my cabin. So they pulled me around to the sunroom, and the wife had the kids in the living room so you couldn't see anything, and put me under arrest there. And then the thing that I found odd is I've been treated worse for a speeding ticket. Those guys, I actually ended up talking to the officer after the arrest and everything and said, dude, 10 out of 10. Like if I ever get arrested by the federal government again, I think I'd go with you. Fantastic human beings. Like they were some of the nicest cops I've ever met in my life, or agents, or whatever you want to call them. So they let me change, and they asked me a few questions. They take my phone from me, and then, I'm off to Gainesville. He said, look, if I can get you to Gainesville, we can. And it was almost like he was helping me. And it was like, why would you help me? You just raided my house. Like, how does this make sense? And so we get in the car. It's like an hour and a half drive. I don't remember. And I've learned my tricks. He said, I said, you haven't read me my Miranda rights yet. And he said, yeah, I haven't started asking you questions yet, but if you'd like, I'll read them to you. Maybe I can ask you some questions. And I said, this isn't my first rodeo, nothing violent, but I know to not talk to you, like respectfully. And he said, no, that's fine. That's fine. You don't have to say anything to me at all. And I get in for booking. They take my fingerprints. The federal agents do. They take my fingerprints, and it's a U.S. Marshal booking me. And I'm thinking, well, that's pretty cool. It's a U.S. Yeah, how many times have you seen a U.S. Marshal? Like, I just thought it was cool because I used to be a history buff, and so I'm just really into all that kind of stuff. And I remember fingerprinting, and I sit down, and I was still in my handcuffs and everything, and chains on my feet and stuff. And he said, soon as the federal agents, they said, Mr. Hamilton, we appreciate you, cooperating with us. We'll make sure to, let the courts know, and if you, all that good stuff. And when I walked in, I was like, whoa, like this is different. Like it's everything federal is different. And he said, the United States of America against Silas Hamilton. And I was like, I think my wife was behind me, and I kind of looked at my wife like, I'm in a lot of trouble. Like this is not normal. This isn't a traffic ticket. I'm going to jail for a very long time. I start going through everything with the lawyer, and start going through. She asked me. She said, "Look, I just need you to be 100% transparent with me, and I have been through this entire process." And I told her, I said, "I'll tell you everything you need to know." And we start going through the details. They know every step that you took, and they can probably pinpoint it. You know what I'm saying? Timestamps everything. You're on 17 different cameras. Your vehicle. You even got a ticket on the way out of DC. Like you're not in good shape. And I remember going through all of that, and we had to do like a character, it was like a character sheet. And so you go from pretty much your parents to you being born to your entire life. And that was hard in itself. I cried tears, like typing all of that out, because I realized like how truly traumatic a lot of things were that I'd gone through. And so we get through with all of that, and the court date's coming up, and they give the older gentleman, he's in his 70s, they give him 2 years, and I'm thinking, if age won't get me out of this, probably nothing will. And so the day of court comes up, and the only thing I regret is I wish I would have flew to DC and went to court in person. But I thought, well, it'll take them a little while to come get me if I go to jail, so I'll get some more time with my family. So I stayed, and So we did everything over Zoom, and we go through the whole thing, and even the DA dropped. They had 4 charges. I don't remember the charges. They dropped 2 of the worst ones, and I was basically getting charged, if I'm not mistaken, with 2 like Class B misdemeanors, which is basically nothing. And so it gets to that point where I'm talking to the judge, and he's just drilling me, and my wife's over in the corner, and I'm just like, this isn't looking good. And he stopped and he said, do you have any remarks? And I said, Your Honor, I do actually. And I think my lawyer was sweating bullets, because that's what gets everybody in trouble, right? And I said, I know what I did was wrong, but I did it for the right reasons. And sometimes doing wrong things for the right reasons get things solved. And if I have to go to jail if I have to be the guy that got taken down or go to jail or whatever it may be, for people to truly understand what's going on, then I'll be that guy. And he kind of just looked at me, and I said, my lawyer wanted me to write down every good thing I've ever done in my life. And I said, I didn't want to. I want you to judge me for who's standing in front of you and what you see today. And if that means jail time, I'll take it on the chin. I just want to get this over with. I've got a new baby. I've got a business to run. I've got a wife. Like, it's been 3 years. I've gotten married. I've done I'm doing the best I've ever done in life. And I said, I'll take it on the chin. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Just let's get it over with. As he said, but Mr. Hamilton, I respect you as a man. I respect the father that you are. And I don't think you need to go to jail. And I was just like, oh God. Okay. And so by the end of it, they gave me 30 days house arrest, 2 years probation, and 60 hours community service. And so past that point, it was, I had to go check in with the probation officer. And I remember, this wasn't long ago. This was like 6 months ago. I think I've been on probation for maybe 6 or 7 months, something like that. And so they tell me, hey, you have to report, and here's your reporting officer. I paid my dues, right? I sent them there $1,500, I think it was. And what is that, restitution? But I'm happy about what I did. And I'm tired. I had to keep my mouth shut for a long time. I can't tell you how many times somebody tried to interview me. And you can chop this up however you want to chop it up. But we don't have to hide anymore. You can be proud of who you are and not be racist at the same time. You can fly a Trump flag if you want to and not hate black people at the same time. It's okay. Like it doesn't have to be that. You can be a white woman, right? And not have to go against a man in sports, and that's okay. You do not have to worry about men coming in your bathroom anymore. They won't do it around people like me. So I've never experienced it. I hope you haven't, or you, right? But if I had to go through all this hell, and in my opinion, it wasn't even that much. I told you, my story's boring. I went in the building for 14 minutes. I came out, I went home, and I hid for 3 years. And they arrest me, and they slap me on the wrist, and I get out. And yeah, I had to fight. But there's people that have done years and years in prison. And I didn't have to pay that price, right? So, but I also, didn't beat the hell out of police officers with flagpoles and have... what are those called? Molotovs in my truck and an arsenal and bulletproof vest and all of these things. Like I personally believe those people were there for the wrong reasons. But I would say 95% of those people were there because they were so tired of being beat down by this agenda. And you can call it whatever you want to call it. To me, it's corrupt. government. That's what it is.
Tell me more. We talked about this on the phone, so
Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask a question. I know we've already talked about it, but what the treatment was like the YouTube videos, the comments during that period of time where I know that you said you're paranoid, you're waiting.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So about 95% of it was he needs to hang for treason. He's a garbage human being. He deserves to die. He should be put in front of a firing squad. You're a piece of garbage. I hope your family dies. I hope your house burns down. Hope you get cancer. That was a good one. I've never been really affected by that, right? Like that was a part of it, but in my opinion, I don't care. I think it was more scary for my family, for my mom, for my wife, you know. Obviously, we kept the kids out of it. I mean, as much as we could, you know, but I think she was terrified. I think truly she was terrified to her core. And there was nothing I could do about it. You're doing almost $1 million a year in sales, and you lose half of it because of a viral video of something. Like I had to move. I lost my house. It was a rental. I lost my house. I lost my shop. I lost my business, like almost in its entirety. At the same time that I'm like, I just had a baby, you know? So then Trump, you know, we're going through the election year, and I did vote for him this time. I was like, okay, like, yeah, you have my vote 100%. I don't care how anybody feels about it. I've been through enough. So they've already said all the bad things about me, so it doesn't matter anymore. So voted for him. He starts talking about pardoning, and I never doubted it.
Do you feel like you did anything wrong? And if so, do you feel like you deserve to have what happened happen?
I think I don't feel like I deserved it, but I expected it. And so you kind of have to take like the good with the bad. So as far as, okay, so how do I feel? Do I feel like I did something wrong? Yes. But I feel like I did it for the right reason. After going through all of this, I'm glad I did it. Good. I didn't go to jail. And I got pardoned. And you got to do something bad to get pardoned, right? As my brother just told me 2 hours ago. So I didn't not do something bad, you know. I got pardoned for a reason, but what I know is that day will go down in history as, I believe, the beginning of a revolution that was created the right way.
What does that change for you?
Well, number one, my freedom, right? No probation, things like that. But I think past that side of it, like as far as being on probation and the worry, life looks absolutely fantastic for me. I had the very, very rare chance of being a part of something that mattered. And I've got a piece of paper from the President of the United States that shows that. So it's going right there on my wall. And I'm proud of it.